Welcome back. It's Sport Federation TV. This is, of course, the show that takes a look at the various sport codes in the Cape Town area and in the Western Cape. We look at so many of our codes that are active in the weekend. We speak to our coaches, our administrators, and, of course, to our athletes. So this is Sport Federation TV. I'm JP Nordia. I'm your host and presenter. We've got a nice full show for you tonight here on Cape Town TV, on Sport Federation TV, and we're getting the wheels started off with boxing. We've got Chris Denicker in studio with us, and Chris is, of course, a boxing coach in the Claremont area, but in the Overberg area. Chris, nice to have you in studio with us.
Thank you.
Chris, tell us a little bit, how did you get started with boxing?
Well, I retired a year ago, just over a year ago, and we moved to Claremont. Me and the wife, we walked down to the beach, and I saw this house, and a few guys were doing pads, and kids running around, and boxing. And what I done, I introduced myself to the trainer,
Yeah.
and I said to him, you know what, if you need any help, I'm available.
Yeah.
I'm retired from boxing, but I would love to join.
So was it a complete coincidence? You come from the Gauteng area, years of decades of boxing experience, and you happen to be walking down the beach, and you just saw the guys training and said, that's it.
Correct. The guy invited me in, and immediately we had a conversation, and he said, please, join us.
Well, that's kind of unique scenario, you know. I don't think most coaches who are coaching normally would welcome someone in to say, come and join us. That shows that there's obviously a hunger for boxing in the Overberg area.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Look, you got a whole lot of youngsters running the streets, and, you know, boxing is the best way to keep them off the streets. You know, you teach them discipline and respect.
So what would you say are the phases? I mean, we've spoken to boxing on so many different occasions. Boxing in the Western Cape is actually going very strong. There's boxing in the Cape Town area, the West Coast area, of course in the Overberg area with yourself. And we have professional boxing and amateur boxing. But what would you say are the phases of boxing? Is it firstly just getting fit? Is it getting conditioned? Because you don't just get into a boxing club and start fighting.
Look, correct. You know, a lot of youngsters today think they can just move and go to professional. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You know, you first got to get groomed. Once you're groomed, you are taken into contests where you will have to prove yourself. From there, you know, coaches can identify if a boxer is going to be good or he's not going to be good.
Yeah.
And it's up to the coach to develop this boxer. Once he develops the boxer, and you'll have him graded, especially for amateurs.
Yes.
And then we move on. We get them fights. You gotta be graded in a respective grading. That's to protect fighters.
Yeah.
And in the Overberg itself, you know, we need to get boxers to perform. And the way you perform is the way you build them.
So when we talk about clubs in the Overberg area, which are the towns that we're talking about? We know you've got one in Claremont. We're assuming Hermanus, Bredasdorp, those areas?
All over,
Yeah.
all over. We just had our Western Province Championship a week ago, and we went to Mossel Bay.
Yes.
And it was a big success.
Right.
You know, the quality of the boxing was excellent, but there was still a lot of things you need to correct.
Yeah.
Boxers need to be protected, and therefore, you know, if they're going to go to the national championships, they got to be good, and they got to be looked after.
So that's the progression, club level to district level, province, and eventually maybe the nationals, and then it's Commonwealth Games. It's like all the way.
There we go. But the first thing we got to look at is club level.
Yeah.
You know, with the clubs in our district, we got dedicated coaches.
Yeah.
And these guys are training out of their lounges, garages, containers. And I think, you know, the Minister of Sport should come and visit these people and try and help them to develop and give us a little bit of money.
So out of the boxes I mean, if you look at any sport code, it's only a handful of individuals that actually make it through to the end 1 in every 1,000 might stay, 1 in every 10,000 might end up being a champion. What do you think is the difference? The difference between the other 999 and the one that manages to go all the way through to the nationals?
It all depends on how you coach,
Yeah.
okay? You can have gyms that's got everything, and then you can have the guy that trains in a little shack or a little container. And I can guarantee you now, those are the boys that becomes champions.
How much of this do you think has got to do with, when you're talking about boxing, we often hear coaches like yourself saying that if you want to be successful in boxing, you need to have a tremendous amount of self-discipline, and you have to be able to respect your coach, and really there's many factors that come to play. How much of this do you think comes from the coach and versus, for example, maybe coming from the home environment?
Remember one thing, a coach and a boxer, they bond.
Yeah.
Okay, once they bond, they speak the same language. When a trainer or a coach tells a boxer to go and do road work,
Yeah.
he's got to be dedicated to do road work. When a coach tells a boxer to keep up his hands, they got to keep up their hands. So it is you as the coach must be the brain for the boxer, and the boxer must understand where the coach takes him.
Yeah.
And that's how you develop them.
Do you think that it's something, when from a boxing point of view, and if we look at all those, do you think it's something that when you're not boxing at that time for those 2 or 3 hours that you've got do you think that there's a contribution into the social space, that boxers are now, they're active with something positive, and that helps with society?
Well, I can guarantee you, the minute a young boy goes to a boxing gym, you can look at the respect he shows.
Yeah.
It's not, he wants to do this to become a fighter outside the ring.
Yeah.
He comes there because he wants help. He wants to progress. He wants to be a Philip Undo. He wants to be a Cassius Baloy. He wants to be a Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
And this is where the coach must listen, and that's the way forward.
So there's, of course, lots of moms and dads watching the show right now, lots of folks in the Overberg area, those towns that you're talking about, Hermanus, Bataasdorp, Kleinmond, I'm not sure if Betty's Bay is in there, but the Caledon area.
Everybody is there.
And so to get started with boxing, what do you suggest? How do you start? Do you need any special equipment? Can you just pitch up in a t-shirt and a shorts?
Look, any youngster that wants to do sport,
Yeah.
okay, a lot of our youngsters today have not got money.
Yeah.
They are in a different space than other people. They get to a boxing gym, and the coaches realize these things. The coaches normally look for small sponsors and to buy equipment.
Yeah.
And you cannot put a youngster in a ring with no gloves.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not teaching him properly. You've got to protect that boxer throughout his stay in your gym.
Do some of the gyms have gloves to lend the players, the athletes, when they arrive?
Well,
Can they
all the
help?
gyms in the Overberg,
Yeah.
they have got equipment, and they've got equipment to protect these guys. There's not a coach in the Overberg that will put a boy in a ring, or a boxer, the girls or the boys, into a ring without proper protection. Head guards,
Yeah.
a certain ounce of gloves for sparring, and that's how we do it.
Chris, it sounds absolutely amazing that there's such a passion and excitement in the Overberg area. Of course, you speak from experience with the Kleinmond Boxing Club as well. If there's a message that you leave now for the moms, the dads, and the athletes that are watching here, what would that be?
Well, first of all, boxing is a sport, a contact sport. And you got to understand, we need to protect all these youngsters that participate in sparring or in tournaments. Your kids are all very safe. They are protected. You don't need to worry about anything happening to them. We had now over the weekend, I think it was over 80 bouts. There was not one knockout.
Wow. Oh, right.
Your officials, they are trained to look after the boys in the ring. And so is the coaches.
And the clubs are open for business.
All the clubs are open.
Chris, thanks for joining us here on Sport Federation TV. We're looking forward to get you back in. And we can't wait to see the progress that you guys have at Kleinmond and, of course, the other clubs in Overberg. We're excited to hear what comes next.
Really, it's my pleasure. We are busy now with a program, a plan, a 2-year and a 5-year plan to upgrade and uplift the boxes in the Overberg.
There we go. There we go, folks. Chris Denicker is, of course, head coach at Kleinmond Boxing Club and instrumental in the Overberg Boxing region, and you heard it firsthand. The Overberg Boxing Clubs are open for business, and they're waiting for you to come and join. We'll take a break. When we come back, we carry on looking at sport in the province. Back in a sec.